Welcome to Mind Your Money. I'm Allie Canal, and this is Yahoo Finance's flagship personal finance show. Think of this as your financial toolbox. For the next 30 minutes, we'll give you the latest money news, cut through the jargon, and tap into expert advice, all designed to help you take control and build a stronger, healthier financial future. On today's show, we're looking at how the government shutdown could impact your money. And with open enrollment season just around the corner, we're breaking down the key job benefits that can help you keep more money in your pocket. Plus, big sales from one of the world's largest retailers kick off next week. Later on, our expert breaks down just how much you're really saving. The federal government shut down Wednesday after lawmakers failed to pass a budget or short-term funding bill. The Congressional Budget Office estimates about 750,000 federal employees will be furloughed for each day the government remains closed. Here with more on what this means for your money is Yahoo Finance senior columnist Kerry Hannon. So, Kerry, what does a shutdown mean for those hundreds of thousands of furloughed workers?
Yeah, that's correct, Allie. I mean, there are those that are furloughed, but there are also hundreds of thousands more who need to continue to report to work without pay. These would be people in safety and those areas like air traffic controllers and so forth. Now, the thing is, when the shutdown ends, federal government workers will all receive their back pay. But if you're a contractor for the government, you're not guaranteed back pay.
What about Social Security? Do benefits still go out during a government shutdown? And will a shutdown affect whether or not those payments actually get made?
Yeah, that's a great question. What the Social Security Administration says is, yes, indeed, checks will continue to go out. They do not expect any slowdown in service. They expect them going to be on time. And we have to go with that. So I think that anyone who's worried about that, they should be okay at this point.
And how could a protracted shutdown affect the cost of living adjustment for Social Security? Because even though people say this could get resolved in a matter of a few days, we have seen instances in the past where it's taken months for the two sides to reach a deal.
Yeah, this is tricky, Allie, because the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, is usually announced in mid-October, and it should have been October 15th, ideally this year, because it's based on the inflation numbers, the CPI, from July, August, and September. And so now, since we will not have the September number to put the average of those 3 months together, that's how they determine what the cost of living adjustment will be for checks, Social Security checks, starting in January. And they announce that, and people have time to prepare for what that adjustment's going to be. So this can it's very possible this is going to delay what that announcement will be, what they're going to determine the adjustment will be for next year. The current amount that they're talking about, the estimate I've heard is 2.7% increase, which is slightly better than it was this year. But that doesn't, we're not sure if they don't have a hard number there. Maybe they'll go with the number from just July and August, but we just simply don't know yet. Last time this happened in 2013, there was roughly a 2-week period where it was sort of an unknown period. But then once that everything started rolling again, they got that CPI number, they announced what the COLA would be for January.
Kerry, great insights there. Stick with me. I want to also talk about Generation X, because Gen X is finally reaching retirement age, with the oldest members of the cohort turning 60 this year. The new book, Retirement Bites, a Gen X guide to securing your financial future, co-written by Kerry Hannon and Jana Herron, aims to help Gen X navigate the road to retirement. And still with me is Retirement Bites author and Yahoo Finance senior columnist Kerry Hannon. So Kerry, first of all, congratulations on the book. What's the takeaway from your research, from writing it? What's your advice for Gen Xers really trying to figure out the right time to retire and claim Social Security?
Well, Allie, thank you. I'm so excited to talk about this book. It is amazing. When the series of columns I wrote for Yahoo Finance for Gen X, mostly pointing to the fact that Gen Xers they have such angst that they feel woefully unprepared for retirement. Many, in fact, are, and some are not, but that simply, it's that malaise, that slacker attitude that they feel like, oh my goodness, I'm really lost. But the fact is, when I wrote those columns, I had so many reader comments, so many people contacted me to ask for help and figure out what was going on. This definitely hit a hot button. So here we find that this generation really is squeezed, right? The forgotten generation, they call them, between the big boomer generation and the millennials coming up behind. But this is a generation that really faced several obstacles in saving for retirement. So, but this is a scrappy group. It's the group that ate Pop-Tarts and drank out of the hose and rode bikes without helmets. I mean, they've got this. So my basic advice is you do still have runway ahead of you. 60, yes, when the oldest is reaching 60 this year, certainly you got to get rolling, and hopefully you are pretty well prepared. But that doesn't mean you need to give up if you're not, because there are things you can do.
Now, some recent studies suggest Gen Xers are concerned about falling behind on their retirement savings. What should they be thinking about as they do enter their 60s, which you just said it's the oldest of that cohort?
Yeah, Allie, here's the thing. There are things you can do. The first thing someone needs to do is really take a hard look at their budget. And that sounds like obvious advice. But frankly, as we age, we get sort of lifestyle creep, and you lose touch with what you're actually spending money on. And some of these things can help you make some pretty serious, tough decisions, but important decisions about how you're spending your money right now. And then look at your entire picture. You might have other assets besides your retirement accounts. You may have real estate holdings. You may have annuities. There may be different things in your mixture. So you want to look at the whole package of what you have put together and really be clear-eyed. And I personally really advise working with a financial advisor, if you can, who can have that sort of from the balcony view and give you some objective advice about what your moves you can make, what strategies you can get. And I just want to add quickly, the reason why this generation is particularly impacted by feeling insecure about retirement savings is because when Gen Xers got started in the working world and they kicked off their careers, 401ks were just coming on the scene. Nobody really knew what they were. This do-it-yourself retirement saving was something that we didn't have the education for. There weren't many options to invest in, and frankly, not much money you could set aside in these accounts. So clearly, it was a generation that was the experiment for how these things were going to work.
And Kerry, let's talk about something called the hover method. First of all, what is it, and how can Gen Xers use this method to approach retirement with maybe a more positive mindset?
Well, the hover method is one of my little, tricky things that I put together. And it goes at this. It goes at the mindset of retirement savings, right? And what happens, and we sort of make jokes about this generation being kind of, oh, whatever, But the fact is, your mindset is really important into how you approach your retirement savings and managing your money. It's the power of positivity. So here's what HOVER stands for. The H stands for hope. And hope is something that it's different than the O, which is optimism. Hope is really having this inner sense that the future will be brighter, right? And the O for optimism is a bit realistic. You say, okay, I know things are going to be tricky, but I also feel that I can make it to the other side. I know what I'm doing here. I know who to ask for help. The V is for value, really knowing, do you value yourself? And there are ways that you can add value to your life by adding skills, learning new things, but it's really important in having that and building that self-confidence. And if it's not even understanding about financial education, those sorts of things, add value to it. That really helps. Enthusiasm, of course, one of my favorite things. It's that like oomph, if the E stands for the enthusiasm that gives you that extra push over the wire in terms of getting positive and that glass half full approach to life. And the R is resilience. And as we all know, when you're trying to get your finances together, when you're saving for retirement, when you're facing living in retirement, resilience is critical. You have to, and we have it as we age. We've had setbacks, we've had recoveries. This is just the give and take of life. And I often say that learning new things really helps you develop that muscle of resilience, because you start as a beginner, you add skills and you become an expert. And then if you start over again, you're a beginner once again. So it's that rhythm of life, but resilience is a key quality in order to really build a great mindset and help you build your retirement accounts.
I love that, Kerry. I'm going to use the hover method in every aspect of my life. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And make sure to check out Kerry's new book, Retirement Bites, which is out right now. Well, the weather outside might may not be frightful just yet, but Amazon's already kicking off the holiday shopping season. Its Prime Big Deals event goes live October 7th and 8th across 19 countries. The two-day event follows July's four-day summer sale, which saw record-breaking results. But there's a lot on the line for Amazon this time around. Last year's fall event underwhelmed, bringing in about $8 billion in gross merchandise volume. That's according to Bank of America, and that represented a 25% drop from July's Prime Day. Analysts saying that bringing it back signals that even as inflation cools, shoppers are still laser focused on finding deals. And if you've already spotted some early discounts, you're not imagining it. Amazon saying that select Prime Big Deal sales are already live, spanning holiday gifts, private label brands, Amazon devices, Kindle books, and grocery savings. The company has more than 200 million Prime members worldwide, and it's hoping a strong turnout this month will help fuel momentum heading into the holidays. In its latest quarter, Amazon's online store sales jumped 11% year over year to $61.5 billion, while physical store sales climbed 7% to $5.6 billion. Now, with Amazon Big Deals Day right around the corner, how can you get the most bang for your buck? Joining me now with some tips is Yahoo Finance personal finance reporter Ben Walker. So Ben, let's start with the basics here. First, do you have to be a Prime member in order to take advantage of these big deal days?
Yeah, great question. So this is the Prime Big Day deals, and you definitely need an Amazon Prime membership to take advantage of it. So Prime normally is $14.99 per month or $139 per year. However, there are a few ways you can get discounts on Prime or possibly a free trial. For example, if you're eligible, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial of Prime. There's also a 6-month trial available for young adults aged 18 through 24. You can also get a discount if you're an eligible government assistance recipient or income verified customer. And also there is something called Amazon Family. So if you live in the same household as someone with a Prime membership, you may be able to join their family and take advantage of their Prime benefits.
Now, what kind of discounts are shoppers likely to see this time around?
Yeah, so there will be loads of discounts, and Amazon right now is advertising that there will be millions of exclusive deals available. A few of the ones I've seen are up to 65% off on electronics and devices, up to 40% off on health and beauty products, up to 40% off on toys and sports products, as well as other discounts on fashion, home, and pet products. One thing I've noticed a lot with these Amazon sales is that Amazon branded devices are always heavily discounted. So if you're looking for a new Fire tablet, Echo, Kindle, Ring alarm, or anything like that, they are probably going to be on sale. And like you mentioned, some of these early access deals are already going on. So some of these devices are already on sale.
Now, how can credit card rewards or cash back offers help people stretch their dollar a little further and take advantage of these deals?
Yeah, so I mean, whether you're shopping at Amazon or another retailer, you can always get a little bit back if you use a rewards credit card to make your purchase. And so it's what I like to think of as an automatic discount for online shoppers or shoppers in general. For instance, if you're shopping the Prime Big Day deals, you can get 5% back on your Amazon purchases with the Prime Visa. And if you typically shop at Amazon, the Prime Visa is an excellent card to have in your wallet. However, regardless of where you shop, a cashback or travel rewards credit card can provide you with some rewards that'll help offset the cost of your purchases.
So it sounds like there's maybe some things hiding in the fine print there, but any final advice for making sure those deals are actually worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say with credit cards, for one, always, check the, application offers and welcome bonus offers to see how you actually qualify for some of these rewards, and just be careful not to overspend. For the actual, big day deals with Amazon Prime, I would say, if you haven't already and you're an avid Amazon shopper, use a price tracker like Keepa or Camel. And that way you can actually see if you're getting a deal, even during these sales, because sometimes the retailers will inflate the base price and you won't know if you're actually getting a big discount or not. So a price tracker can really come in handy.
All right, Ben, some great advice there. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Allie.
Well, President Trump is adding new tariffs on timber, lumber, and derivative products. That includes kitchen cabinets, vanities, and even some upholstered furniture. And that could mean higher costs for home renovations. Here with more on how homeowners are navigating those price increases is Yahoo Finance senior housing reporter Claire Boston. So Claire, what do we know about these tariffs so far?
Hi, Allie. So as is typical with these tariffs, they are evolving very quickly. Right now, what we understand is happening is that there will be a 10% tariff on lumber imports. That goes into effect on October 14th, as well as 25% on cabinets and furniture. And unsurprisingly, people in the housing industry are quite worried about this. They are worried that this is going to increase costs associated with building and remodeling. And they say that right now is a really bad time to have those issues, given that we still have a housing shortage in this country and home prices are near all-time highs. These things could make it even more expensive.
Right, and the housing market has just been stuck right now. We've been waiting for this. But with these higher costs, I mean, are consumers trading down a bit, maybe opting for more modest or scaled back home renovations?
Definitely. So this is something that I was looking at. Both Home Depot and Lowe's have been talking about this quite a bit recently. They say that they see consumers moving a little bit down. They're not doing those really expensive $60,000 kitchen renovations. You know, maybe they're taking on the smaller projects. Maybe they're just redoing their backsplash or just repainting. And of course, those are smaller ticket things. They're easier for people to afford. And given the current economic uncertainty, this is the kind of thing that we may continue to see.
And do you get the sense that this trend is here to stay? I guess, what are you seeing in the data?
Yeah, and so one thing I've been looking at is the National Association of Home Builders. They survey remodelers about their forward-looking pipeline, how they feel about conditions. And remodelers are not freaking out, but their sentiment is generally falling. Right now, they're at about 59 on a scale of 0 to 100, with anything above 50 being positive. That's down from about 77 a few years ago. So certainly they are a little more uncertain about the future than they used to be, and we'll have to see what these new tariffs are going to do.
And is that downbeat sentiment, is that similar to what we're hearing from contractors and other home improvement professionals?
Yeah, definitely. All of those people they're just a little more worried than they used to be. I was working the phones last week talking to some of these people, and some people said they felt okay about their projects in the future. Some people said it's been really slow. It's kind of a mixed bag out here, and we're headed into fall when fewer of these projects get done anyway.
Now, how does all of this tie back to the broader housing market? Because mortgage rates did tick up a bit.
Yes, and that is tough. As we have discussed many times on this show, the entire housing market is basically frozen. There's very little buying and selling happening. And a lot of remodeling actually happens when homeowners are preparing their homes for sale. They want to kind of take care of those little projects. And so we see remodeling generally do better when the housing market is hot. And we're not hot at all now. That, things could change. Mortgage rates right now, while they have been ticking up, are still near their lowest point in the year. And so some people hope that potentially we could have a little bit more of an active fall. Maybe if there's some more home sales, people are going to paint before then, and that could be good for the remodelers out there.
All right, crossing our fingers for an active fall. Claire, appreciate it. Thanks so much. And you can scan the QR code below for all of Yahoo Finance's coverage of mortgage rates. Coming up, we learn different ways employers can actually help you save money through benefits, plus our weekly segment, Ask Yahoo Finance Anything. That's next on Mind Your Money. Employers across the country are gearing up for open enrollment season, that time of year when workers review their benefits for the upcoming plan year. Lenore health insurance plans isn't the only way employers can help you save money. Joining me now to break down some other benefits you'll want to take a closer look at, Randell Lenore, Fidelity Investments Vice President and Workplace Regional Leader. Randell, thanks so much for being here. And let's start with healthcare. Open enrollment right around the corner. What should workers be thinking about when choosing a plan for the year ahead?
Yeah, many of us are in the thick of it right now for the next 2 or 4 weeks, or it's around the corner. And for many of us, this is the only time in the year that we can select our benefits. We can make selections around healthcare, retirement plans, and many other benefits. Unless we have a life event across the year, this is the time to make it. And when we're sitting to make these choices, it's important to think about what you and your family value and what's most important for your well-being. So one of the places that you can look at to consider this is how much you spent in the past year, what sorts of wellness or benefits that you've used in the past or would like to use in the future. And then look ahead. I mean, next year, are you growing your family? Are you moving? Do you have an expected medical expense? Considering all of these when you sit down to select your benefits for 2026 will make sure that you make the best aligned decisions to ensure a good 2026.
So let's talk about health savings accounts. How do you know if a tax advantage HSA is right for you?
Well, it depends on the plan that you're selecting, right? A lot of us are thinking about healthcare costs. That's probably the number one thing on people's mind with annual enrollment. You'll have to consider for yourself how much you like to spend out of pocket. So how many times have you gone to the doctor? How many times have you gone to the hospital, the ER? Or also just the broader scope of things that you spend on healthcare, like contact solution or braces or mental health services. So when you consider that and you sit down to select your plan, the only plan that will allow you to contribute to an HSA is a high deductible health savings plan, a high deductible health plan. And really what that means is you're selecting to pay less on your premiums right now and a little bit more on your services. But luckily, if you pair that plan with an HSA, you get to make those payments if you choose in a tax advantaged way. HSAs allow for you to put money away tax deferred. If you spend the money on qualified medical expenses, it's tax free. If you don't, you can invest it and it's yours for the future beyond even the year, and that grows tax free. So it's an incredible investment vehicle that can work for so many people out there.
What about employer-sponsored retirement plans? How can workers really maximize those benefits?
As somebody who helps people retire, this is something that's very dear to my heart. So you want to make sure if you have access to a 401k or 403b, an employer-sponsored retirement plan, that you're able to contribute to it, that you elect to contribite to it, especially if your employer is putting in matches. So for example, let's say your employer matches 3%. I don't know many investments that can match up with I put 3% in and my job puts 3% in. And it's helping us prepare for what will be the biggest the biggest financial expense most of us will encounter, which is retiring ourselves. So you would definitely want to make sure that you look at whether your company has a match and whether you can make that match in 2026.
There's so much more to talk about here, and We'll have to have you back. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's now time for Ask Yahoo Finance Anything, where we answer your personal finance questions. Joining me now is Ross Mack, host of Financial Freestyle, to help answer questions about building your wealth. Ross, you're here in studio, so let's get to it. We have our first question here, and it's a big one. What can I do to help my kids become millionaires?
I think that's the $1 million question, right? Every parent wants better for their kids, and I think the number one thing is obviously understand that time is on your side. So it's best to start early and remain disciplined. And I think it's really important that, I think it's really important that we open up the accounts that will obviously benefit over time. And I think when you start being disciplined and consistent, just $100 a month can ensure that your kid fully will be a millionaire, right? $100 in various accounts, right? You got custodial brokerage accounts, custodial Roth IRAs, and obviously college plan 529 accounts. But the idea is that just simply $100 every month into the S&P 500 over time, and by the time they get ready to retire, they'll have over $1 million. And I think one other thing is, it's not up for grabs, right? This isn't debatable. Every parent should have some type of life insurance policy so that their kid could obviously inherit something as well. So life insurance and obviously investing will ensure that your kids will be millionaires.
Yeah, right. Slow and steady wins the millionaire race, I guess you could say. But next question here, should Bitcoin be in your portfolio? And this is something that we've been talking about a lot, especially over the past year.
Well, I think people have to understand, right? Like, there's obviously been some bad press back in the day. You had different top CEOs on Wall Street saying, oh, this is a scam, it's a pet rock. Anybody who's buying this at my firm we're going to fire them. Fast forward to today, all those same CEOs and their firms are some of the biggest buyers of Bitcoin. So the short answer is absolutely it should be in your portfolio, but now it's a function of just how much, right? Now, I don't think anybody should have 100% of their portfolio on Bitcoin because they are obvious, extremely volatile, right? We've seen over the course of time, over 8 times it is, traded down over 50% in value, right? Fast forward to today, it's back and it's back towards its all-time highs, approaching 120,000. And so I think it's very important that yes, you want to have some exposure to one of the best investments, right? In fact, over the past 10 years, Bitcoin single-handedly has been the best investment. So I do believe it should be part of your overall portfolio.
And final question, which is appropriate with stocks at record highs, but when do you know it's time to sell your stocks?
I love the question, right? And I think there are other people that will approach this differently, but I think in short answer, it's never. And obviously that's loaded, and I don't necessarily mean never, but I think you got to look at that and say, I bought this company for what reason, right? Long term. And obviously one of the greatest investors of all time, that being Warren Buffett, he's buying it for long term. And so the idea is that you only are really selling it if there are 2 different changes. One, a life change, maybe you actually need the capital, whether it's to buy a home or to actually, approaching retirement. And then the other change is maybe my overall thesis didn't go right. Right. And then I think at that moment, right, there's some change. Maybe there's management change. The overall competitive advantage is now shifted. The overall industry has shifted. And so now maybe I want to take that money and put it elsewhere. But I think, when you're a long-term investor, you're buying it to literally say, I'm growing with this company, and hopefully over the long course of time, I'm going to make a ton of money in this same name.
All right. Some great advice there for our reader and viewer questions. Ross, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for Mind Your Money. Scan the QR code below to sign up for the Mind Your Money newsletter and stay tuned for Market Domination that's coming up next.